Welcome. Call to order the Townsend Conservation Commission meeting for Wednesday, May 25th, 2022 at 7:07 p.m. Can I get a roll call attendance, please?
Yep. James Gates.
No. You say your name.
My name first.
Present.
Okay. Colby Streeter, present.
James Sequoia, present.
Pamela Corn, present.
James Gates, present. This meeting is being recorded. Is anyone else recording? Okay. Chairman's additions and or deletions. We are going to take 3.2, request for COCs, off of tonight's agenda. We are still waiting for some feedback from Mike Crowley and the town council on that.
One more
Yes,
thing,
ma'am.
James. I wasn't able to finish the May 11th minutes, so if you could delete that too.
Okay.
That's okay.
So we're going to also take the May 11th minutes off.
Thank you.
Chair's report. I do not have anything offhand. 1.5, review approve the meeting minutes from 4/27/22 and the 4/27/22 executive session minutes.
I'm making a motion to approve the 4/27/22 and 4/27/22 executive session.
Second.
Hi, Joan. You're muted.
I made it, thanks, hi.
Okay, can you announce that you're here, please?
Joan Savoy, present. Sorry I'm late.
And seconded. Colby, are you in favor?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Joan?
The minutes, yes, I read them, I'm in favor, thank you.
James Gates is in favor. .6 agents report. Hi, Jessica.
Hello. All right. Dates covered May 9th to May 20th. Building permit interdepartmental signatures for 215 Main Street, 90 Tyler Road, 81 Highland Street, 1 Kemplin Court, 19 Hillside Drive, 41 Greenfield Road, and 225 South Row Road. No referrals were completed. Board of Health interdepartmental signatures were completed for 170 Main Street, 22 Walnut Street, 241 Main Street, and 17 Elm Street. We have an RDA for 46 Emery Road tree cutting for safety concerns. It is still on hold. Just pending reviews for 1, 5, and 7 Bailey Road request for COCs. We issued an order of conditions extension and minor amendment for 50 Highland Street on May 9th. Issued an order of conditions extension request for the rail trail on May 9th. Issued a determination of applicability for 41 Greenville Road deck installation on May 16th. Issued a determination of applicability for 116 Wallace Hill Road septic replacement on May 16th. We had an intake for an RDA for 57 Tyler Road and a site visit. I had email correspondence with the Campbell Farm trustees regarding their sugar house. And we had an intake for ecological NOI for Squannacook River Wildlife Management Area for habitat restoration. And I sent out referrals to town boards.
What was the habitat restoration one you said? I'm sorry, I missed it.
What happened to it? Oh, it's still, we haven't held any hearings or anything. I was just doing some completeness stuff on my end.
Okay, sorry. All right. We do not have any hearings or appointments tonight. Work session 3.1 TWB 2022-127, 57 Tyler Road, request for determination of applicability for removal of 5 trees within a stream resource buffer. Jessica and Matt were on the sidewalk. Joan, Colby, Jim and Ann could not make it. But I guess Jessica, if you could go, or if you could discuss this and.
Sure. So the applicant, Laurie Dodge, she is present here on Zoom tonight too, in case you have any further questions. Or Laurie, if I'm misinterpreting anything, feel free to chime in. So the applicant requested the removal of several dead and living trees, all within 100 feet of sort of a wetland stream resource. Some of those trees are dead and just need to be removed. So pretty simple project, but all the work will be occurring within the buffer.
I didn't see anything out of concern. Colby?
Nope, not on my behalf. I didn't see anything.
Joan?
Nope.
Right, well, then we need a motion.
Motion to
Do
approve.
you have any questions, Ann or Jim?
No, I think it's a cut and dry situation. Just, make a motion to approve the removal of those trees within 100-foot buffer zone.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. So you, Linda?
Yeah, thanks. If there's only 5 trees, can you explain why the person had to come before the Conservation Commission?
I'll answer that one. Based on our bylaws, pretty much any earth disturbance occurring within the buffer will require approval from the Conservation Commission. There are far more extensive exemptions in the Wetland Protection Act, but our bylaw is pretty strict with any disturbance other than, minimal landscaping tasks like planting or doing some minor gardening or cutting your yard, unfortunately.
Remind me if I'm incorrect, because it's been a while since I've been involved with conservation, but aren't you allowed to cut up to 50% within the buffer zone?
Yes, but you still need permission from the Conservation Commission.
Okay, good. All right, great.
I'm not quite sure where to go with this because I started a motion and then it got postponed. So, but I'm still in favor of the motion to be able to remove those trees within the 100-foot buffer zone.
I can second that.
I will, sorry, to chime in on your motion, you need to motion to a determination for this one as well.
It's not a negative, right?
So
Make the motion including a negative 3.
A second.
Colby?
Yes.
Jim? Ann?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Okay. And James Gates, I'm in favor. So it's all set. You're all set, Laurie.
Great.
And then Jessica will get you the paperwork, right?
Yeah, probably end of next week, beginning of the following week, but I'll keep in touch with email or on phone. You're muted, if you could unmute.
All right, well,
There, okay, no, I'm all set. Thank you so much. So Jessica, do I need to wait for the pay before I start the project?
Yes, please. Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll do, just with Memorial Day and the holiday, it makes things a little bit tight, but we'll do our best to get that paperwork to you by the end of next week, if
Right.
not early the following week.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, Laurie.
Bye-bye.
moving on. 3.3, update on the submitted plans for the sugar house located in Campbell Farm, CR. The correspondence that Jessica received is, as of this time, the installation of the sugar house with a generator acceptable per the terms of conservation restriction and does not need their RIN. So they put in the generator in, Jessica?
Yes, he said temporarily generator. Moving forward, they might do solar. So hence that additional paragraph there for number 14 for utilities. But per the current language in the CR, they are okay to move forward without written approval. They just, I think, were giving us a courtesy notification.
Oh, that's fine. So we have to vote on allowing us to move forward as the the holder of the.
You don't have to. The CR language says there does not need to be written approval.
Cool. So we can move on.
Do it. Yeah.
Good luck to them. Do you guys have any comments?
Go on. We have to waive her up, I guess.
Joan, did you have any comments on this? On the? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Thank
Colby?
you.
Oh, I do not.
Great. More sugaring. 3.4, vote on potential CC fee schedule revisions.
James, Sir Chair, I have a question, please.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong on my facts, but so we went over the fee schedule over the course of several months the end of 2021, and we voted approved and submitted it to the BOS, which I believe they voted approved in February. And then Jessica said she wanted some changes just to tighten it up a little bit, make it easier to read, adding also the comment that people weren't having trouble with the amount of the fees, they were just having trouble reading the chart. And then when Jim and Ann came back from Florida, we are now revisiting this because they weren't able to attend those meetings or the vote or some part of the proceedings. And my question then is if someone misses a meeting and they miss a vote at a meeting, what is our protocol for revisiting anything then? Is that clear? Am I getting to the gist of it? Thank you.
In my opinion, because this was brought back, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, because this was brought back in front of the commission to discuss condensing the chart, it kind of opens it up again, to discussion. Again, now, with Bailey Road, now we're running into that issue with the, and that's not even that far out of compliance, but we're running into that issue with the COCs, that have lapsed, and people are having to write large checks. It happened with Kevin Smith, and it's going to happen as we keep going forward.
Didn't we decide that for Bailey Road that the fee schedule that was in effect when they filed for the COC was the one they'd be under? But also, we have to remember, if people filed their orders of conditions and filed for the COCs on time, they wouldn't have any fees for late filing.
Right. But at the same time, we can't go and take someone to the cleaners with the order of conditions that has expired, that expired 10 years ago. But again, that's my opinion.
Is it possible someone would let an order of conditions expire on purpose, thinking no one would ever notice?
I don't that's always a possibility, but you know, life happens. Stuff slips through the cracks. If anyone else comment,
I brought up a point of condition due to the fact that we were unable to be communicated with while we were in Florida, and I had no problems with another board in this town, and I think that was meetings were done without the proper number of commissioners in attendance, and therefore that could have been an illegal vote because there wasn't enough commissioners present. And therefore, that stand my grounds, and I feel we have to go back to what you and I originally discussed before I left to go to Florida, and that's the same paperwork right there that you and I had determined, James, before I left.
Sir Chair,
yes,
I would like to counter something Mr. Leclerc just said. We have never not had enough commissioners at a meeting or a quorum, and it is not anyone's fault that you were not able to Zoom or dial in to CONSCOM meetings. I think it would be really fair to let that one go, since everyone knows all you got to do is click on a Zoom link, assuming you have Wi-Fi, or dial in on the phone. And you were able to dial into Board of Health meetings. So, you know, there's no reason. No one was putting up impediments on our end, I can assure you. I believe Jessica would agree with that, and Matt. I think it's unfair to blame the commission.
Jim.
We recently got brand new phones at Verizon, and today at Verizon, my wife, being more knowledgeable than I am, she approached the actual salesperson to figure out why we couldn't be on those links, and even there at Verizon, they could not connect us with that link.
It's a phone number like any other phone number.
Unfortunately, Joan, the Board of Health got a hold of me all the time, and Conservation couldn't do that.
Point of
And I
order.
tried to get-
Sorry.
Thank you.
Let's just get, Jessica, you put in a comment of not to an exceed amount. I agree with you on that. I don't, how does everyone else feel about adding verbiage of not to exceed to the?
Maximum value.
That would have to be discussed in a quorum with the Conservation Commission. I don't think we have that available at this time.
We have a forum,
Yeah, we do, but,
and Joan's on Zoom.
and, define that again, please, James.
So Jessica's comment on the updated fee schedule, she put in a not to an exceed amount for the, after the expiration of the years.
When I spoke with her about this and we went over everything again, I thought this should come up in front of the commission to see if we could lower some of those fees also.
The emergency.
I think they're on the heavier side, and I think nobody wants to get something thrown at them like that in their plate, especially in today's society.
In terms of the emergency,
Correct.
well,
So if the commission's gonna have to come up and negotiate something here, because I still think those fees are too high personally. I wouldn't want that thrown at me, I know that.
Sir Chair,
yes, Joan?
they hadn't been changed since 2010. I mean, you remember, so somebody other than the town was buying supplies for the CONSCOM office because there was no money. I mean, we're allowed to get some money once in a while. And Bill and I just put a big addition on the house, and the fees compared to the price of the addition were really, it's the cost of doing business. If you can afford to put an addition on your house or build a house, I think you can afford those fees. And not everyone, we have to remember too, not everyone comes before conservation. But not everybody. I'd say most bodies don't come before conservation.
Matt,
Yes, Ann.
Thank you.
James' issue at that point regarding our own property is irrelevant to what we're discussing right now. It's an irrelevant issue. The issue is the fees for the people of this town. Not any one particular person.
Colby?
That makes sense. I think she's just relating it to herself. I don't think she's making a personal topic. I agree with you there. So how do we get past the history here and move forward with that?
We gotta negotiate these fees, because we gotta remember that, and not everybody in Townsend has a bunch of old money in their pocket to come out with. And a lot of these fees are actually financed. I look at it from the inside of the table. These have to be adjusted appropriately so that everybody's treated equally and fairly when they come in to make application, do anything, to go forward.
Well, I feel that the current debate needs to be, excuse me, you know, really the OOC verbiage and the condensement, because that is why it was brought in front of us. I understand Jim's point of view, and I think maybe an annual review of the fees, but you know, I really think when we start getting people trying to comply, that a $1,500 check that they have to write, a $2,000 check, you know, even $1,000 for the average home or average family, young family, that it hurts. You know,
Most definitely.
Yes, and that's what we have to consider as commissioners, as far as the fees we establish for the people who are trying to go forward on the other side of this.
again, I think the overall structure of the fees, like, in my opinion, we might just need to move on from currently. But the COC part of this is going to cause people not to want to, you know,
It's a deterrent.
yes, that's going to be the problem where I think if there's no feeling, it's going to affect people.
Sir Chair,
Yes, Joan.
the COC fees don't kick in unless you don't file for your COC within 3 years of your order of conditions.
Right. And that's right. I know that, but how many outstanding COCs are there?
Well, no one, there's quite a few, and no one had even looked or checked since the new team in our office. I think that maybe some people got the idea that you didn't have to file, that you could just go about your business. And so now that we're actually trying to follow what is written down, some people are having to pay some fees for not following what's legal. Thank you.
Excuse me, we have one more hand raised.
Mike.
Hi, I just wanted to offer a comment if I could, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I like that there's a lot of discussion, and I think there's a lot of good points being raised. It sounds like there's two problems that are being considered, or two things about the fee structure, what you're looking at right now. One is the language that Jessica has done some work on, and the other is the cost. If you make a motion or move forward with anything tonight, it doesn't prohibit your ability to continue to work on this. If the language in front of you addresses one of the two problems, you could approve that language and then work through as a working group, continuing to work on what would be an appropriate fee structure to kind of make sure that both pieces are addressed. That might be a way to help people and residents who are already struggling with just the language at the moment and understanding where they fit into the process while you continue to work on the fee structure.
I think we should go and put this on hold again for a couple of more meetings until we can discuss this and get the fee structure verbal so that we know exactly what we're talking about and come up with an actual basis here where we can incorporate additional fees if necessary where people don't pay the fine. Initially, I think that this is a little too high. I think the commission should discuss it, and I don't think we should jump in action to this right now. I think you should take a couple of more meetings.
Well, we're discussing it now.
Correct. And
You
that's
know,
what
and
I'm saying.
we've kicked the can, I like that phrase. We've kicked the can down the road quite a bit on this, and I know I caused part of that. So I don't want to create frustration for Jessica and Matt either.
Okay.
So, fully.
Yeah. So how do we come up with numbers that actually work?
Well, Mike did say we could discuss or get to a point where we can move forward so Jessica can implement the new chart and then keep things, keep it a working document.
Do you already have numbers in mind that are appropriate?
250, 220,
That's the one we worked on. This is,
and
that's a $30 difference. I don't see it being. My biggest gripe is I think we need a not to exceed amount on this after the expiration of the OOC out of all of this.
say that again, Jim.
After the expiration of the OOC,
Yes.
it's $100 per year for residential and new and existing in farms. Multifamily at 125 and other projects is 125 a year beyond after the expiration of the OOC. But where's the ceiling on that?
There should be a ceiling. There should be a ceiling. Something that the average everyday family can afford.
And I think it personally, a multi-family home or multi-single family and a commercial should be higher. Because those are commercial projects, those are
I agree
projects
with
for
that.
profit
I agree with that.
I
that
agree with
they
that
should
as
be
well.
doing their work.
Yep.
Existing and new single-family homes. We need to I feel that we need to have a limit, a cap.
At the same time, you shouldn't be decentivized in getting these things done too in a timely manner. So what is the right numbers?
Oh, we can go with this as it is, the way it's been printed right now. We can cut it down a little bit. That's, I think,
But we don't have we currently do not have a not to exceed amount.
Is it, would proper notification, receipt, return, delivered, mail, et cetera, to notify these people that they owe money? And if they exceed or don't respond to us, then we have to take further action at that time. And I would put that on an individual case.
Did you get that, Jessica?
Can you repeat that, James? Jim, sorry, Jim.
I'm saying to leave the fees the way they are now, and with our new staff of people involved with conservation here in Townsend, that we could notify these people in advance to let them know they owe money. And we'd have to take these as an individual case after the fact. I mean, somebody could have lost a family member. There's tragedies that happen in life, and we just can't go out and gouge people financially. So we've got to do something to govern ourselves accordingly in the best interest of conservation, fees, and the homeowners.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think it's good for us to be sympathetic.
Hold
I
on,
mean, we
Joan.
do have to consider all the, the years that people have been paying these fees. So it just comes down to, is it fair? If we were just all of a sudden to start waiving the fees?
Mhm.
I think,
You were saying to waive the fees.
I never said anything about waiving fees. That was not
Okay.
said.
sorry then, that's my mess.
As far as increasing the fees if they're delinquent because of a personal problem or a hardship, we have to consider those avenues also.
Okay, I mean, then that would be on the, sorry, that would be on the applicant to bring that up to our attention. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just unfortunately past staff of our office has not reached out to applicants to inform them that their orders of conditions have expired and that there is an annual accrual of fees after they expire. So unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that now, and it's too bad that it couldn't have happened sooner.
Joan?
James?
Yes,
James, thank you. So I would just like to remind everybody that the fees are based on what Ashby and Pepperell are charging.
Good.
And I believe most of them are still even cheaper than those two towns. And we are not a poor little farming community. The housing production plan that the Housing Authority was just completed for them shows that the average family income in Townsend is $97,000. Also, we are not in a position to negotiate or change the fees. They've been approved by the BOS. If someone can prove some kind of hardship or something, the sky is falling, that we're not charged with negotiating. And I know people do have problems sometimes, but I guess at worst, they'd have to go to the Board of Selectmen and ask for
well,
changes in fees from what's on our schedule, because we're not charged with negotiating or changing them. We have to treat everybody the same.
we weren't really discussing overall changing the fee schedule, Joan. We're talking about really where should the limit be, or the not to exceed amount be, the OOC after the expiration. So
Maybe checking with Ashby and Pepperell, checking again to see what they're charging. I mean, I don't see why we should be cheaper than Ashby or Pepperell.
We're Townsend, we're independent. We don't have to follow anybody else's footsteps.
what? So I don't know. $500 mark comes to mind and pops into my head.
That's a good figure.
But and we can always change this.
Yes.
And we just have to resubmit it to the select board, and then they have to.
Sorry, real quick, guys. Linda's had his hand raised for a while. Do you
I'm
have
sorry,
something?
Linda.
Oh, thank you.
We're new to technology.
Yeah, I would say that with the fees, try not to make it personal, but have like Jessica said, there's, I don't know what has happened in the past, but, and I'm surprised that people are being charged with, fees after their orders of conditions have expired. If I'm relearning a lot about conservation, so that's a new thing for me. But I think it is important to compare yourself with other towns so that you don't have to recreate the wheel. It's not to say that Townsend isn't independent. We have to always think about our town and how we are different. But I think, there should always be a way to, if someone is in dire straits, there should be a way that they can, go through a process of not having to pay the fees. So if that's not in place at the moment, that would be something to think about in the future. Because, people come up with different things in their lives. Maybe they have cancer and all of a sudden they have all these bills. And so we want to be sensitive to the individuals, but I think we also want to make sure that it's fairly clear so that our agent and our administrator can, administrate these things in a clear way. That was the only thing I wanted to say. So that's it.
Thank you.
Mike, or man.
Mike?
Again, I really like that there's good discussion. I like that people are taking the time to think about everybody. Remember that this is affecting a lot of things. For example, we have that NOI hearing coming up regarding the state doing work in town. These are the fee schedules that will apply to them too. And so this is what we're going to utilize if they fail to follow their order of conditions and we have to go after them. If they're failing to pay fees as the years pile on, this is the fee structure that's going to apply to them, just like it is to residents, just like it is to developers. So it's good to have a discussion. I do think that right now, forgive me if I'm wrong, if the fees that you have in front of you are the same that are on the books currently, I believe what you're looking at right now are that there's changes to language, but not to fee structure. So is that correct?
They have two fee schedules. One is
Okay.
just my sort of administrative requests to the existing fees, and then one is track changes to the existing fees changed to the fees that Jim and James proposed back in, I guess, September when we were doing this first.
We're actually working off of yours right now, Jessica.
Okay.
Just to keep it simple, to just keep moving this forward.
Would it help with any motives for tonight if I ran through with you guys what I would really like to propose, since I'm sort of the front line of fee processing? So maybe you guys can understand where I'm coming from with my changes.
Yes. Yes, please.
So we're going to start back up at the top real quick. We discussed months ago when we first started talking about this, about adding in a nonprofit discount. And I think at the time it was unofficially decided to put 75% of the listed fee for their applicable project type. Application type, we have existing single family, new single family, multi-single family, and then commercial, industrial, and multi-unit. Several of the projects we've gotten in recently don't fall under any of those categories. So like we have an ecological NOI, that's not a residential related project at all. A lot of tree cutting type of things too. So I'm just proposing a change to all other projects in the last column. So all other sort of non-residential projects. For RDA fees, because RDAs do not necessarily require a wetland delineation, charging a fee based on the per foot boundary of delineation does not make any sense. So I'm instead proposing lump sums for those of 40, 50, 100, and 150 across the board. And then as we've been discussing the COCs, the fee schedule currently and all throughout the past has been an annual fee per each year beyond the recording date. That does not seem fair to me, since then you are still adding in and charging for the 3-year permit term. So I'm instead proposing if you want to put the annual fee beyond the expiration date of the order of conditions. Also to put in a not to exceed amount, so they're not charged the $1,300 cap that is throughout our fee schedule. And that is it. So really those are my goals to try to get addressed for tonight. And of course, if we want to talk amounts, we can do that in the next few meetings or something. We could have sort of more thorough work session, but I really struggle with a majority of the projects that come in now trying to determine the applicable fee. So these would really help me and Matt out to have these changes put in place.
Where's that original sheet that we did? That's the original sheet we did that one. Have you ever seen this original sheet?
No.
No, have you ever seen this, Colvin?
I mean, I just looked at it just now.
How does it differ?
I'm thinking that we should make sure that every commissioner gets one of these sheets to see exactly what we proposed, and that they bring this to the next meeting so that we all are on the same page with what we have in front of us. Because if Colby hasn't seen it, Dan hasn't seen it, you and I went through it. It's only fair that all the commissioners get to see it in black and white.
Is this something not in the folder on the drive?
On the wall.
If you read it.
I'm happy with
This
everything.
isn't- this isn't there.
Bottom line on the back page there. I don't think that it should be.
Which one?
These here, these
It's
fees.
not on that one.
What, the
Yeah,
emergency ones?
The captain's fees with it.
Jessica, how many emergency certificates have you done since you began here?
2, I think.
I want to hold it up.
Make a decision there, Mr. Chair.
No, I need a motion, but
Okay, Kobe, are you in favor of these last fees on here, the 215 cap and hotel? What do you want to do? Because we can't gouge the people on the other side.
these are the request for emergency certificate.
Yeah.
And she's done 2 of them since she started last fall.
Okay, how about you get me here? When are these, when does someone apply for these?
Jessica, when does someone apply for an emergency certificate?
For example, these were for emergency beaver dam removals. So if there's a beaver dam blocking a town bridge or a road, so if it floods, it could damage the road or cause a lot of it if it's like public safety, if there's dead trees all of a sudden that are about to fall on the road, things like that.
Okay.
Jessica, the
Yep.
town doesn't pay emergency fees, correct?
Municipal projects are exempt from fees.
No one's used that. I'm just,
I don't see a major difference, alteration here.
right, no, it's a $30 difference, and I understand where Jim's coming from, but the only 2 we've done in the past 8 months has been municipal.
We can always add to these next year and put such as we've done with everything else here, to have it go up over a 3-year period. The first year is going to be the basic one. We've been an increase there. Then next year we'll go through it again, give it an increase and another increase in 3 years. So that everybody's not slam dunk with a big bill initially. And by doing it gradually, people are aware of the fact that the price is going to go up. So, and they can be made, this is all public awareness. Everybody knows what's going to happen here. And it's up to us to manage these fees appropriately so people don't get gouged.
I think that's I think that.
Yes, Matt?
I was just gonna say, I was going off what Jim said. I think that could be, just my opinion, a decent compromise where I think Jim's point is he doesn't want to shock the system, which is fair. He doesn't want to increase it a lot at once. And I think Joan's point is also fair, where she wants to bring up the fees to levels of surrounding towns. So maybe instead of raising the surrounding towns in 1 year, we do it over 3 years, like Jim just said. I think that's a decent compromise in my opinion.
Thank you.
I feel the same way.
Okay,
I agree.
so
And that way we can move on from this.
thank you, Matt.
I'm going to make a motion to go with the fees that have been presented in front of the commission at this time, with the intent of raising them within the next 2 years to be to where we want them to stay for a period of time.
Which set of fees?
Yes, which set of fees and
original.
where do we start from?
The original set of fees that was given in September.
We did.
Or even if you do it with the one that we currently have and just do it over 3 years, off of what the originals were, just 33% a year of the difference.
Well, we had sat and discussed it downstairs in room 2. We had gone through everything and we agreed on all of the figures that we put together. I'd like to stand by those figures and have the increases for 2 more years until it gets where they're going to be.
I'd like to chime in if that's what you guys want to do. I still strongly recommend that you make requests for determination of applicabilities lump sums and not per foot of delineation. I would make sure that we put in a cap or not to exceed on the after expiration of order of conditions. If that is still something you desire to, please.
Well, if it's going to make your life easier, then obviously.
Yes, please. This has been going on very long.
Now for a comment.
Yes.
Since there's a couple of different things that are getting talked about in a couple different documents for the purposes of clarity, maybe you could move through each item one at a time and take a vote. And then once that item is done, Matt can record it. You can move on to the next one and the next one. So like the comment, whether it's if this fee is going to get adjusted over 3 years, you make a motion on that and you go. If this language is going to get changed, you make a motion on a go. That'll help kind of streamline, remove some of the stuff that you're all in agreement on, and then you can dig in on those ones that are still in discussion.
If we're gonna do that, we gotta do this next meeting, but I can't keep letting Jessica hang to dry here because she just wants to do lump sum for the request for determination of applicability.
Please. Again, you guys, if you want to just approve the administrative updates that I'm requesting, and then at a June meeting, we can revisit the fee amounts. I'm totally amenable to that. But this has been going on for so long. We really need to nail something down tonight, please.
I make a motion, we approve the administrative updates requested by the conservation agent to ease her life.
If we go for the initial one, that you want to add that
Just speak up so everyone can hear.
there. I'd like to take the initial increases or initial way that James and I did this back in September and vote on it this time. And as far as the capping of the last fees in the bottom of the column, I think we should vote on it next meeting.
I just made a motion.
Well,
Does anyone second the motion to accept Jessica's administrative changes?
no one has seconded it yet, but
Thank you.
I think, again, we should vote.
I'll withdraw.
I feel that we should vote for the administrative changes, and then next meeting, we have a work session for within the next 2 meetings. So I know we have this other one coming up for the wildlife management area. You know, discuss the
Colby, go for it.
Yeah, so I'm making the same motion again, right?
essentially, but are you going to motion to discuss the fees?
Is that even necessary? Because we can bring it up again.
I feel it is,
Okay.
just so it's on record.
I make a motion to accept the conservation agent's proposed changes to the fee schedule, as well as to revisit it at the next Conservation Commission meeting to adopt, to discuss the maximum values, or not to exceed values,
Additional fees for delinquencies.
additional fees again,
All
fees.
All fees.
additional fee policies. So I need to say this all again.
Anyway,
I second.
Okay.
Okay, so Joan, did you get all that?
Sure.
Going to two
It
more.
was essentially what you said, just with the discussion of the fees as well at an upcoming meeting.
Thank you.
So how do you vote?
Yes.
Colby?
Yes.
Jim? Yes. And
Yes.
James is a yes. So Jessica, you could do your administrative changes and do your lump sum for the top, and then,
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, so. Oh, man. 3.5, enforcement discussion for Edward Road. And you had brought to me, or just talked to me about the people that live there.
The gentleman at 61 Edwards Road is handicapped, uses a walker, can hardly walk, and he's very ill. So my thought was that we could get the Boy Scouts or something like that to go down and assist the gentleman in cleaning up the mess. And James, you had mentioned about getting the DPW, to go down and maybe load a dump truck, something that they could, the Boy Scouts could put the items in to be hauled away. I think that a gentleman in ill health and handicapped could use help.
Well, yeah, but we also need their approval or permission.
Absolutely. So that would be up to the agent to.
James, I'd be willing to reach out to the Boy Scouts and help too, and I could, organize the Boy Scouts if somebody needs to do that.
Okay, yeah, I know whatever they're called, the leader. But,
Yeah, if someone could get me the contact info, that'd be great. Then I could reach out and make a date
I know him as well.
or have start with a discussion.
yeah, Jessica, do you have any? Oh,
Don't we have to get permission from these people to
yes.
hop around on their land?
We can't go do anything until we have their blessing and,
Right.
That was gonna be my comment. So I propose, I can send them another letter. I know, there was some information floating around last time, so I ended up not sending out a letter, but I can mail them a letter. Do you want me to invite them to the next meeting where you guys can openly discuss some options? Or would you like me to offer this in a letter and then I just coordinate with them in a phone call or something, or offer to go to their property?
Can't ask him to come. That's.
Maybe Jessica, feel them out on the phone first and see how they'd like to roll.
Okay, I don't have their phone number, so I would need to send them a letter anyway to get them to initiate that contact.
yeah, I think that would be a good, try to make contact, verbal contact with them, and we'll just have to feel our way through this as we go.
Okay.
I'd like to suggest finding another group to, or reach out to another appropriate group. Just seeing the area, it's a little bit treacherous where they'd be working, and I'm sure it's loaded with glass and metal too. Is there another appropriate group, other than sending a bunch of kids in there?
It's the NOLA group, which they're kids, but they've done stuff like this too.
Oh, yeah? No. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Supervised also. It wouldn't be sent in there and attended. There'd be adults with them supervised.
Yeah, either Boy Scouts would be too, but NOLA, yeah, they're supervised.
Are you saying no then?
NOLA,
No, I don't.
they're the group, they're from the high school.
Oh,
They volunteer.
They've built Habitat for Humanity houses. They've been down to Katrina area after Katrina in New Orleans and such.
With COVID, they're staying around here. They did some work on the rail trail with me a month ago. They were a great group, hardworking kids. So, all right, Jessica, so you're going to try to make contact with them, and then we'll go from there.
We'll revisit. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I do agree with Colby. It is very steep slopes down there, and I think a lot of the materials down there are heavy or very big and bulky. So we probably do need to figure out some volunteer help based on those conditions. That's appropriate. But I will see what I can start.
Thank
All right.
you.
So next is 3.6, administration discussion.
Hi. Yeah. Do you mind if can I talk?
Go ahead, Mike.
All right, good. I want to make sure that I was hearing things right. My internet keeps fading in and out. Sorry about that. We just have been getting a lot of outreach from residents, things like that, with questions and things like that. And I wanted to check in and kind of follow up with kind of what you would like for administrative process going forward with things in terms of communications. Some of it, thankfully, you've kind of been addressing in the conversation tonight, where you've been talking about making sure everyone's engaged. But we've been having a lot of folks reaching out with questions regarding information about coming to properties and using them, and queries about basic information. And in terms of that administrative turnaround and communication record, it'd be good to get that kind of a little more organized in terms of where it was going. And in particular, it would be very helpful if in any kind of decision or determination or communication, it kind of came through from like the CONSCOM as a whole, as opposed to from individual members of the CONSCOM. That way there could be a better record and we can make sure we're keeping on track of everything. Because we've had some issues recently. We had a public information request regarding a discussion and some communications from the CONSCOM to regarding a request, and the CONSCOM decided to independently reply, and it just took extra administrative time to track down all of those different pieces of information, because rather than having, oh, this is the official decision of the CONSCOM, it was every CONSCOM member had the option to submit individually. And again, it just means that there's an extra level of, review that has to take in terms of administrative time.
Well, one of the things I saw, Mike, is on the first bulletin, dumping or leaving litter, garbage, and dog waste is prohibited. I feel that yard waste should also be added to that.
Oh, is this 3.7 or 3.6?
Oh yeah, sorry.
I can talk, it might make sense to talk about them both at once if that would be helpful. Happy to do that.
Regulations it says draft.
Yes, so the land use regulations, the one we're kind of on the 3.0. That's a good one to talk about. So what you've got right there, or which one?
Are we done with 3.6?
No.
Before we move forward? I'm sorry.
No, so for 3.6, part of that is making sure that communications between or official decisions from the board are being kind of channeled in the official manner, just so that we can make sure we're keeping track of them. Sometimes there will be, like I mentioned the example recently where there was a public information request regarding a decision, and the board at that particular decision had decided to respond individually. And it just, again, because we didn't follow like a standard practice of we're going to make one decision at the meeting, we had to make sure we had to spend extra administrative time to track down those sources of information. And so it might be, just in terms of being, as the person who is the supervisor in terms of workflow with staff, it would be helpful if there was more streamlined communication so that we can make sure that we're addressing everything the Conservation Commission wants us to be working on without having to spend extra time trying to piece things together.
Okay.
Do we know what that was in reference to?
It was in reference to the 35-foot buffer wording.
35-foot buffer has to be discussed.
No.
Not tonight, anyway, I'm getting off that subject.
Yeah, it was just who sent what to.
Mhm.
So, yeah, no. Jessica, Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Mike, you're good to move on then?
Yes, thank you.
So 3.7, land uses for Conservation Commission owned properties.
Thank you. So we have had a lot of public reaching out with interest in what recreational opportunities are available on town lands and in specific Conservation Commission lands. There's been a lot of confusion about the language, and as it stands, the language for the rules of use are not on their own page. They're actually under a page that's regarding ATV regulations, and then if you scroll down, you can find those regulations. The regulations you have in front of you, I don't know if they're in color or not. Most of those regulations are completely unchanged in substance, just reordered. So like, for example, the word carry in, carry out was added. that what did not exist previously, the rest of the sentence did exist. There were a few things that I would put as a recommendation, and maybe Matt could share the documents just so I can make sure everybody's looking at the same thing at the same time.
Yep, bring it up right now.
Thanks.
You guys seen it?
So everything that's in black already exists as a rule and regulation. The red is my recommendations of new things, entirely new things. So for example, right now, the regulation for overnight camping, which you can see is red. The regulation on the website says overnight camping is permitted only by permission of the Conservation Commission. That's a little difficult to keep track of in terms of what is permission or not. It doesn't really well defined. And it also, because just from experience working in state parks, people tend to read a few words and then think they know the gist of it and keep going. And so it's better to start with the more important language first. So these are the same regulations reordered. So for example, dumping and leaving of garbage is at the top as opposed to turn towards the bottom. The overnight camping is prohibited except, oh, there's a without, sorry about that, without there. Except with special use permit from the Conservation Commission. There isn't already a Conservation Commission special use permit, but it is the typical format for special use in, say, state parks and nonprofit lands to use a special use permit, which is just something, again, a little more official. It's something it's the Boy Scouts want to go camping on Conservation Commission land. Someone comes and requests it. Conservation Commission says, that sounds great. We're going to put it in writing. And then you just keep that with you while you're there. And it says the dates that you're going to be there. That can kind of help because there can be challenges when there's something along the lines of permission as to who do you need to get permission from? Is it from a committee member? Is it a past committee member? Is it someone who was once at a committee meeting? Is it, if there is someone camping and a town police or environmental police officers there and they say, are you allowed to be here? They don't have any documentation that says they're allowed to be there if they are allowed to be there. And they don't have any documentation that says they're not allowed to be there if they're not allowed to be there. In terms of the hunting and fishing, the hunting and fishing regulations are exactly the same. The only addition is baiting or trapping allowed, because baiting and trapping does typically bring in outside materials into sites that can be a problem. So it's that kind of, in terms of that regulation, you could take out if you wanted to take that out or leave that in. And then the final one down there at the bottom, that section, again, same, was previously in, just reorganized in terms of things most people need to know on the bottom one. Do you see how it says no trails shall be made, dams constructed? The current regulation is no trains shall be made, dams constructed or structures built without special use permit or without permission. Again, this is another section that doesn't have a permission that it says permission. I think that was probably a typo. I mean, you probably aren't supposed to be able to build trains on Conservation Commission land, but probably was in reference to trails as something that was probably the problem they were trying to address. Down at the bottom, there is a fee for applying for a Conservation Commission special use permit. That was the fee for the state until they changed it recently. You could take the fee off and just simply say, come to a Conservation Commission meeting and get a permit. So it's just those, again, most of this language already exists. In fact, if you look at the Conservation Commission website, actually, Matt, is there any chance you could share the Conservation Commission website that has the current regulations on it? And this will be a good showcase of how you get to this stuff. So you go to Conservation Commission. So there is no direct link to it anywhere on the page. You have to search for ATV. And then if you search for ATV, you come to a secondary page that you can't get to from the main page.
I think, sorry, if you go back, it's actually under regulations and bylaws,
Oh, okay.
oddly.
It's under, okay.
Yeah, right
Regulations
there.
and bylaws for off-road vehicles. So now we come to the page that's the ATV off-road vehicles. And then you scroll down and you find out that people can go hiking on Conservation Commission lands. And that seems like a strange placement to me. These are, you know, if the old Conservation Commission is to have these be accessible to the public, for example, or that these are resources that the town has the right to use, then it's having it hidden between a couple different steps is a challenge. But this, again, you can show, it shows you right here, if you look down at the regulations as they are on this page, you can see that leaf litter is, and garbage is further down the list. Hunting in season, yep, so there you go. I moved it just to the top. Hunting and fishing, again, doesn't have anything about baiting in it. I added that in, but also that made that a little more succinct and clear. Oh, I thought I saw Jessica's hand up, but it was apparently her cat's tail. You can see the overnight camping is prohibited except with prior written permission from the Conservation Commission. Again, just changing that to permit so it's a little more regulated. Again, all of these are still the same. And where's the one about trains? That's my favorite one.
You just passed it.
Yeah, there we are. No trains shall be made, dams, structures built without prior written permission from the Conservation Commission. Again, it's totally the authority of the Conservation Commission. I think that you probably have more problems with people building trails than you do trains in Conservation Commission properties.
Can I have some clarification questions?
Please.
Matt, can you go back to the list, please? I also have it up. Oh my gosh. Are these still for the 10-ish conservation lands in Townsend, or are these going to be applicable for all of like the 30 Conservation Commission owned properties in town?
So that's a good question. At the moment, the way it works is that the regulations showed on the existing website are technically the regulations for all properties, and then they have a list of 10 properties. It was something I was going to come back and talk to the board about at a different meeting, or the committee at a different meeting, because those 10 properties, I get a lot of calls about people interested in those, but they don't know where they are or how to find them. They're just names. That's on the website itself. So this is just the rules and regulations. I figured we'd work on this first, and then this town conservation lands, that list, making sure that that list is available. One of the things we're in parallel doing in land use department is building GIS maps that we want to make accessible to residents in a way that people can find some of these resources. But some of these, for example, there is not, a lot of these are colloquial names that people who live in town and have lived in town for a long time, been around town government know. But for residents who are just now beginning to get outside and take walks, they don't really know where these are. And I do get phone calls saying, I'd like to try and find these properties. Can you tell me how large they are? Do they have trails on them? Those kind of, more substantive questions. That I would say it might be another good conversation to have another time, just because, like I said, we're already building maps in town, and that might help facilitate this kind of question. But that's why it's just regulations at this point.
Mike, to add to the comment, that I jumped ahead to, I feel that we should add yard waste to the first bullet. I don't know your thoughts on that, or
That sounds great. That's I think that's very appropriate. Matt, you want to write that in?
Yep. Oops. Something like that.
yeah. And Jim, do you guys have anything you want to add? Colby, Joan?
I'll make a comment that the conservation land in Townsend has always been open to the hikers and people that want to go and explore the woods. There's never been restrictions, and it's also open for hunting and fishing purposes with proper licenses. So we can go from there and govern ourselves accordingly. And there's a lot of stuff just landlocked. It's out in the middle of the woods, nowhere. There's no access to it. So it's very difficult to get to it without permission from the abutters.
What about the special use permit? How does everyone feel about the $25 fee to go camping?
There should be notice given to somebody that somebody wants to set a tent overnight or whatever, and there should be some stipulation here. You can't litter, you can't track, you don't want cigarette butts in the woods, whatever the case is. But we can't stop people from pitching a tent and going out and spending the night in conservation land because that's what it's for.
Yeah, but do you want to charge them?
I don't see a reason for a fee, but everything is based on the dollar, so it's just my opinion. I don't think it should be a fee on it, but that's only my opinion. The commission can vote on that.
Can I offer a comment? Because he made a very good point there. At the moment, camping is only allowed by written permission. So you can't just go out and camp at this point. But he makes a good point about if someone's going to be going out there in a tent, it might be worthwhile to make sure that people nearby are notified or something like that. That's kind of why there was an idea of a fee just to cover that administrative cost. The thing to remember is anytime there's any kind of processing that happens, it usually has to get done by a staff person, usually Jessica or Matt. They do get paid something, and that money comes from taxes or some other revenue source. And so I like the idea of having a fee that's specific for this. That way, if the person wants to utilize this resource, which is, by the way, cheaper than a state resource, which is great. I think that's awesome. If the person wants to utilize the resource, they can pay the $25 as opposed to if the person utilizes the resource and there's staff time that goes into it and there's no fee, then that money comes from a tax base.
Is there anything free left in America?
Well, then I would be happy to take the $25 off if that would be, it's not an issue for me. But at the moment, it is already free to go hiking and fishing and doing all those things on the Conservation Commission land.
Like, you have to justify it because it.
Okay. Well, no, I think it's a good point. I think it's worth having a conversation about. And also this.
We're going to charge Boy Scouts $25 a night to pitch a tent in the woods to go camping when they're donating time to the town and other places. We got to be reasonable, and we got to consider what we're putting fees on. This is the free country, and nothing is free anymore.
Well, that's a good point. It doesn't have to be $25. It doesn't have to be $25 a night. It just needs to be, I think the permit is the more relevant thing in there because for example, the Boy Scouts example, let's say that the Boy Scouts come before the Conservation Commission and ask to camp on the property, which they'd have to do in the current regulations. We say, yeah, go for it. We love you guys. They go out there and there's somebody already out there. And they said, oh, I got permission from the Conservation Commission and it was written, but there was no expiration date. There was no period that I was supposed to be here. So I'm just here now because I have permission to be. And that was never included in the current permission that was handed out.
That criteria as yet in Townsend. I don't know if anybody's had a problem finding somebody else camping
We had someone camping on our soccer fields last year.
on the soccer fields last year.
Well,
Okay,
that's town
that's not
property.
conservation land.
No. And you've been patiently waiting.
How long would a person have to wait? For example, I want to go camping on conservation land and I want to go next Wednesday. How long do I have to wait in order to get a permit?
That's a good point. Mike, is this
That's a great,
come in
that's a
front of
great,
us, or
yeah.
or Jessica?
no, that's a great question. I don't have that's something again to bring up and discuss. Right now, what's the process? So right now it says that you need to have permission to go camping. So what is the current process that the Conservation Commission has for those permission? Do people have to come to a meeting? Do they just come talk to the conservation agent? I'd love to incorporate whatever is in practice into this. So what is the current
To
practice?
the best of my knowledge, as of today, we don't have any stipulations as far as somebody who wants to go camping on conservation land.
Or
Well,
any,
you do. It's on the website. Matt, you want to go back to the website?
It would be on the website,
Yeah,
but has it been enforced?
No
I don't
one,
know.
Mike, no one's come before the commission since ever.
Yeah.
Linda, do you remember anybody ever coming when you were on the commission? Asking?
No, but I think it's important because of the increase of fire hazards. So I think it's important for the fire department to know when people are in and maybe making fires. That's my only concern for permitting, because I think you need to know who's in there. It's not about being free, it's about being responsible to the people who want to camp in there.
So then, just based on the discussion, maybe we could strike the fee, because I think that's fine, or make it, the fee is only for non-town residents or something along those lines, because if these are supposed to be free resources for town that, you know, like it was mentioned, this is for the town to use, then maybe it's just for whatever, but maybe it's simpler to take the fee structure out. I guess more so that it's the fact that because I don't know, I have people calling and asking about these. They are curious about hunting. They are curious about going out and utilizing these resources. People want to go out and hike on these resources, and they're having challenges as it currently stands, finding them, knowing what they're allowed to do. Again, if this is something that's worth more discussion, I think that sounds great.
Jim had
You
an
know,
idea.
yeah.
Make a donation. We'd like to accept the $20 donation, and we'll give you a time and a date when you can use the facility. So it needs further review.
And the person needs to know that they can get permission, but they don't have to wait 2 weeks in order to find out if they can go camping.
Well, and how to, so
And
that's
how
gonna
do we
have to
go
be
about that?
written in this and put on the town's website,
Yes. But there
press
has to be-
release, and,
has to be a way.
yeah, so.
I
I
didn't
think
bring
if there was a way that the permit application could be filed through me and or Matt, and then we turn it around as fast as we can. And then I can just put it in my agent report or something like that. But I think a permit's a good idea in case someone does go out a week or two after someone's been camping and there's just trash everywhere.
Maybe
Right.
they come in front of the conscom once for like a long time permit, like a year permit, and then they just let me or you know what specific days they're going to use it or something like that.
I think
I don't know.
And Mike might know this, but aren't we starting to discuss online permitting for different?
Yep, that is something that the land use department is currently working towards right now, is making that we have the availability for online permitting while still having the paper records for those that there's their preference, but in hopes that we don't have to make it so people have to keep coming down and getting a piece of paper from town hall and then bringing it back, kind of making it more accessible. So this could be an online thing in terms of that. I didn't bring this up with the hopes that it would be voted and changed tonight. There's a comment in there about a special use permit. I don't have that yet. That's not even written. I would certainly not think you should put that as an act, like, let's start rolling that out without a permit in place. These are just kind of the things I'm getting feedback on. And as I've mentioned previously, I really like the fact that I like being accessible to residents and letting them be able to come in with questions, and people have been responding really well to that. I think that these are great resources, and it sounds like it's the desire of the community to make them accessible. And so I'm proposing some things that might make it more accessible.
Well, you got our feedback.
Yeah, that's great.
We need to give them we don't have to vote, but we can give them our blessing.
How about I'd be happy to work if any of the commission members are interested in this in particular and have some good ideas. They can reach out to me and I'll just write down things, and we'll come back when we have kind of a more formalized thing, if that would be helpful. You know, nothing would get changed in any way until there is something that is voted at the commission. But I can just continue to work on this if you'd like, or I can work with individual members or come back to another meeting and talk about it again if we'd like to work at it.
No. You just talk to us about not doing individual stuff like that.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
See,
So-
good guy. Good job listening. Good.
Very true.
Make a comment about this.
Of course.
I think the overarching motivation behind this is that, as you guys know, Matt and I have been slowly but surely visiting the 30-ish Conservation Commission owned properties. And I think we visited like 8 or 9 so far, and not a single one of them has any indication that it's owned by Townsend Conservation Commission or has any regulations or anything posted, even though like on our website it says these are all posted on conservation properties. So, and we have seen some violations to the existing regulations on during our site walks. So it's trying to help keep things nice and tidy and consistent too. So that's where Mike did get the motivation to try to clean this up a bit for you guys.
Yeah, if I can add to that, it's after speaking to Townsend Police and environmental protection officers, they told me that they will enforce regulations that are posted. But if there aren't regulations that's posted, it's easy for the person to say, oh, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to have a fire, or I needed to get permission to camp here, or anything like that. So part of this is to get, when we get approved regulations, they can get posted as it says that they're going to be, and then enforcement can happen. Right now, if someone goes out in the woods and is dumping trash and having a fire, which is not allowed, the police and the EPO would have trouble stopping them or making them, enforcing that because it's not posted anywhere. And again, it's not accessible. It's not clear. If you're walking down the road and you walk by a piece of property and it just looks like woods, you would just keep walking. But if you knew it was a resource that was for you to enjoy, and you saw, oh, I can go hiking here, I can go hunting here, this is great. Then people could start engaging with those resources more.
So are these rules and regulations also going to be adopted by the town-owned properties?
I don't have authority over the town-owned properties. I think it would be worthwhile to standardize regulations across town. But everybody who has their own authority should be really the ultimate decider. So like, these are Conservation Commission properties. I think you guys should be the ultimate decision makers as to what the regulations are. Cemetery and Parks has properties in town. They have different language about overnight camping. Their overnight camping language is overnight camping is allowed except by permission from the Cemetery and Parks Recreation Commission. So it's something that, again, isn't always super clear. They are starting to make an effort to make sure that regulations are posted. There are new signs down, for example, at the Adams Dam area about what is allowed there and what that property is. And I think that just without the way it currently is, where the regulations are kind of hidden on the website behind a couple of different pages, and they're not on a page that says this is the land that you're allowed to use and how you can go out there and utilize it, because it's not on any properties in the field. It's people don't really know that they're there, and people aren't really, whether or not they're allowed to by regulations to use these properties or not, they don't feel like they're able to use them because it's not clear that they can.
So what funds do we have available to us for signage and making parking lots more, making parking areas more apparent? Oh, sorry.
So yeah, how are we paying for these? Because
I have an idea.
Okay, Joan.
There have been so many grants out there that we are finally taking advantage of. And I think if Conscom or Mike, if you'd be willing, or Jessica and Matt or Mike, if you'd be willing to check with Vinny, I bet we could get a grant for signage. And I want to thank you all for finally looking at those properties, by the way, because that hasn't been done since ever. So thank you.
Additionally, for information, there is a conservation fund, which is money that was set aside for either acquisition of new properties for conservation or the maintenance of existing properties. That fund is administered solely by the Conservation Commission. There's currently $64,000 in that fund that could be utilized to pay for signs. And I would not recommend spending all of that money on signs.
Okay, so that you have an answer to that.
But again, I'm not going to spend a single dollar without talking to you guys.
Now you had fences close enough.
no, but we also don't want to have to wait until town meeting next year to vote on buying signs.
I think John's idea about a grant would be wonderful. We're not talking
I agree.
conservation money that can be saved for other things, but if there's a grant available, that might be the way to go.
But there's also funds out there for that stuff. What other things should it be used for, on those properties in terms of maintenance?
I understand, but I think we should exhaust the grants first.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because 30 properties, 30 signs, 30 parking areas, that one's off pretty quick.
And in the shorter order of things, in terms of if there was a regulations that we wanted to start putting out there, my land use budget, I'd be happy to pay for printing and laminating of signs, just to help make it accessible to folks. It's land use has funds for helping, making sure that people can use the land. That's what it's there for. So I'm happy to, it's again, up to the Conservation Commission. So, but I just like the idea of working with you guys to see, making sure that it's accessible exactly as you want it to be. So.
I think it's a good starting point that we can continue to build on. So, I don't, does anyone else have anything to say?
Yeah. I think it's going to take a while to get the good signs going. We could get some temporary ones up for the time being and use Mike's resources there. Mike's printing and laminating for the time being.
Well, yeah, but I think all this has to get voted on formally.
Right.
So, but they can't enforce anything until it's posted. So
Does this require a motion?
currently, no. In the future, yes.
We have a hand up.
We can't see it, Matt. Still. Yes, see Walter.
Carla, is that you with your hand up?
See Walter?
In the meantime, I think Leslie, you had your hand up too, right?
Yes, yes. And I just briefly, I just wanted to say that Conservation Land Fund was primarily set up for land acquisition, and you might want to think about every fall town meeting, we would add about $5,000. We just put a $5,000 thing on the town meeting warrant just to slowly build it up over time, and 5,000 seemed to be not very controversial with people and was pretty smooth in terms of being approved. So just, it was meant to, so that when we did find a piece of land that we were interested in, you know, we wouldn't have to ask as much. If we needed money from town meeting, we wouldn't have had to ask for as much money. So anyway, just a little background.
Thank you.
Leslie?
So we still have a hand raised.
Well, this discussion has been really helpful for me. So if the person doesn't chime in and you guys want to move on, I've already got some great feedback.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for your time.
All right, let's move on.
Discussion of reappointment, vote for Joan. Again, this is discussion, we vote for it, and then it's just a recommendation to the select board. So we have Joan and Jim.
Any discussion or motion?
Both.
Okay.
Just to make it clear, I should have said it's for 3-year terms too, for both.
Okay. Well, do we have a motion and then we can discuss it?
Motion first, before discussion? Yes. You should go one at a time.
Yes, we have to do.
Yeah.
So the first one's Joan.
Make a motion to reappoint Joan Savoy. With
For a
the position
3-year term.
for a 3-year term as a conservation member.
It would be a motion to recommend for appointment since the Board of Selectmen is the appointing authority.
Apologies. Yes, thank you for the correction. I make a motion to recommend Joan Savoy for a 3-year term for reappointment to conservation member.
We have a second. and seconded. Colby, you in favor?
Yes.
Jim, are you in favor?
No.
Ann, are you in favor?
Yes.
Joan, are you in favor?
Yes.
I think she's.
We apparently had some kind of problem there. I apologize. I think we're all back.
I think, Matt, I need you to confirm, but I missed most of Joan's votes and I totally missed Jim's votes. So we might need to do that.
I just got frozen. I had to reboot in myself.
Yeah, sorry. Can you guys re-motion and re-vote for both members, please?
I don't know what happened.
All right, so we have to do this again.
Take two. Here we go. All right.
Sorry.
Nope. I make a motion to recommend Joan Savoy for a reappointment to a 3-year term for a Conservation Commission member.
Okay.
Colby Streeter,
Yes.
Jim,
Oh.
Ann,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
James Gates, yes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 yeas, 1 nay. 3.9, recommendation for reappointment vote for Jim LaQueer, 3-year term.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend James LaClaire for reappointment to the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term.
Second.
Colby Streeter,
Yes.
Jim LaQueer,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Joan Savoy,
No.
James Gates, yes. Okay. 4.0 correspondence. 4.1 memo from Town Properties Committee requesting that the Conservation Commission review and conduct a site walk at 182 Warren Road. Doesn't have a date on this, but Townsend Properties Committee regarding 182 Warren Road. At their May 10th, 2022 meeting, the Town Properties Committee voted to refer the property at 182 Warren Road to the Conservation Commission agent for review and site walk report. Jessica, is this one of our properties or?
I'm gonna defer to Mike on this one.
I can speak to that because I was at the Townsend Property Commission meeting. So this property is not a Conservation Commission property. The Townsend has lots of properties that are taken in tax title. And this is one property that was taken in tax title that is currently vacant. And there are some wetlands on the property. And so they were trying to figure out if there was any way to determine if there was a way to have properties like assessed in-house so that we could get a valuation of what they could be used for before they get sold. It's kind of in that consideration. I said, they asked if Jessica could do it. I said, well, first off, you really should put in a formal request. She gets paid by the Conservation Commission budget, so they're the authority for that. But I would also just say that I know that Jessica has very limited hours and she tends to work a lot. And so it might be worthwhile to have broader conversation about it, because if they have hundreds of properties, and if we say yes to one, then they're going to come back and ask for the next one and the next one and the next one. And I think it would be appropriate to have a discussion about how that would get funded. If that's something that would be then added as a recurring responsibility. Which is incidentally that at their meeting, the discussion, that was their idea, was to start having Jessica looking at properties.
Jessica, what are your thoughts on this? I know you have very limited hours and I don't see how it would be possible.
I mean, if I have a slow-ish week, that's fine. I mean, an alternative would be to just add hours where funds might be coming from a different committee. I have no idea if that's possible. I mean, as long as availability and financial logistics work out, I'm happy to help out where I can. But yeah, probably can't hard commit to anything.
They also were interested in having the committee come out and walk the property to do the wetlands evaluation. Again, their Townsend Property Committee usually has a representative from the Conservation Commission on it. And there isn't currently, that position is currently vacant because the Conservation Commission hasn't put a representative on that committee yet. So I think that they're kind of wondering what their options are in some ways.
Mike, I'll say this, I didn't even know that a Conservation Commission rep was, there was an available spot. Did anyone else?
No.
Joan, did you know? So, maybe we could get.
I'm not at all surprised that that is the case.
No, it is what it
yeah.
is. But maybe we need to get a list and start divvying them up. But, I guess what are they trying to get out of this? Are they trying to get, a report that they can use formally, or is this just an informal thing?
I don't think they know for sure. I think they're trying to figure out what the best use for some of these properties are, whether they're should they be considered for future town uses, should they be sold, and if they're sold, what could they be used for if they're sold, and tends to kind of recapture money for the town. They have some excellently well-educated people on that committee, but they also acknowledge that none of them are wetlands delineators or anything along those lines. So they're a committee, incidentally, that meets once every 3 months or so, and they usually have 30-minute meetings. So there's not a lot of time commitment in that regard, but that also means that they have to they don't have a lot of time to discuss things at great length like the Conservation Commission was. So they don't meet every 2 weeks for the whole year. They do have an upcoming meeting. If a Conservation Commission member wants to come and have that discussion, they have one in June.
Well, that's besides the point. I guess right now, Jessica, this is kind of, do you have time? If you don't have time, but we can get you funding, or if you don't have time on our end, but we can get you funding to get paid, you have the hours in the week to do more of it. But I know probably in front of the select board.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I'll make a comment after.
Matt, you're GIS trained, right? Maybe Matt could just at least start checking we know the GIS maps aren't always right, but maybe Matt, you could start doing some GIS checks. Is that feasible?
It's certainly look into that. I don't know if I'd be able to do everything I would need on like Mass Mapper, or I don't know. We don't have a paid GIS service right now, I don't think, in the land use office, but I could certainly look into it.
They do have someone from the town assessors that is the ability to look into GIS level.
They do. Okay.
If I can just offer a comment as the staff supervisor for the staff, I think that there's a real need, not just for Jessica and Matt's resources in other departments, but I think there's going to be a lot more requests for interdepartmental staffing. And I think it would be pretty appropriate if building commissioner or the property committee wanted to request staff resources, that they were able to put forward some funds to pay for that staff time. So that way it's not every other committee coming in and taking up time that's supposed to be devoted to the roles and duties. And just as a staff manager, I really want to make sure that Jessica and Matt have the time they need to devote to the things that are their priorities.
Right.
So I would say my druthers would be, sure, what would you like to do to pay for the staff time? Would be my response if I had my druthers to it. So
I agree with that because, you know, it could take our 15 or 20 hour a week position and it could foreseeably bring it up to almost a full week. Now, you know, if it's interdepartmental, then I can't speak. But, you know, it's, who's going to pay for the time?
Right.
You know, because it's not just an hour. You gotta go
They
do,
need to be compensated.
yeah, or at least the funds. So I don't know. Does anyone?
Is that even realistic to bring like Jessica's position up to full time?
Right this second, no, but you never know if there's stuff.
They're never gonna make it full-time because that goes along with all the benefits and everything.
Well,
So I have been doing some research into this, and you can give an employee extra hours as needed as long as it doesn't cross certain thresholds. So for example, Jessica and Matt are both under 19 hours. Over 19 hours is when you would get, say, health insurance, which is a big cost thing. So even Matt, who works 19 hours each week, he could be, if he was willing to and there was need for it, he could work a couple of extra hours over the course of the year. As long as that average doesn't hit 20, that doesn't trigger that health insurance. And there's other levels as well for that. So in the case of Jessica, she works 15 hours. She could work 4 hours a day, 4 hours a week, every week for the whole year and not be at that line. And then even then, still take on an hour or two over the course of the year and still not hit that line for health insurance. I think she's awesome and she should be full-time, but that's not my decision to make. And yeah.
It's not just that. She might not
but I recognize the incremental nature of things. So
I guess if we figure out how the funds are going to be allocated or transferred to pay for it, sure.
okay.
But I don't think we need a vote on this. And it's really more of it's up to Jessica too.
Up to Jessica.
Mostly, not really up to us.
I would say that if you wanted Jessica to use staff time that is supposed to be allocated for you to do this, you should probably think about doing a vote, because then you are technically using funds from the Conservation Commission budget to pay for other departments. If it's sure, we'll have a conversation about this and figure out how to make it work, that doesn't necessarily need a vote, because let's have more discussion about this is basically the determination.
I'd like to maybe Jessica do anything that she doesn't want to do, or she doesn't feel comfortable with. No.
But yeah, so we need a vote if we are okay with our budget being used to do this. Otherwise, yeah. Thoughts?
If Jessica wants to. Really, it's not our decision, it's Jessica's. Or Matt's, whichever
Yeah.
one. It's their decision, and I think they're the ones who need to make that decision if they're willing to do it.
I think that's your answer, Mike. It's their decision, but, you know, we don't want to take out of our time. You know, it seems like there's a backlog of stuff that they're still catching up on. But it's up to those, you know, Jessica and Matt, if they want to do the extra work.
That's perfect feedback for me, and I wholeheartedly agree. I would never, ever ask a staff person to do something that they don't feel comfortable doing, and I would make sure that no one else pressures them to do something they feel comfortable doing. So I would love that you guys said that too. That was like an extra bonus for me. So thank you for both.
Oh, move on. 4.2, notice from Highway Department regarding resurfacing roads in Timberlea Park. Email from Jim Townsend Highway Superintendent. The Highway Department will be milling and resurfacing several roads in Timberley Park starting the second week of June. Just wanted to reach out to let you know that we will be placing approximately 900 feet of straw wattles around the two culverts on Ash Street. This will stop any material sediments from potentially entering the brooks. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out. Have a great day. So, does anyone have any comments or?
The highway's gonna do, they gotta do.
Right. Jessica, Matt, no concerns, questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, let's move on.
Notice, yeah.
4.3, Jennifer Eaton's resignation letter. So the first part of this correspondence is resignation notice from Kathy Spofford. Jennifer Eaton submitted her resignation as member of the Town's Conservation Commission on April 27, 2022, effective immediately. Attached is a copy of her resignation letter. Actually, I'll read the statute. Chapter 41, Section 109, no resignation of a town official shall be deemed effective unless and until such resignation is filed with the town clerk or such later time certain as may be specified in such resignation. Upon receipt of the resignation, the town clerk shall notify the remaining members of the board, committee, etc., if any, and notify the executive officers of the town the effective date of resignation. So Jennifer's letters dated May 17th, 2022 to Kathy Spofford, town clerk. Dear Kathy, in a follow-up to my original email sent to the selectmen on 4/27/2022, this signed letter will serve as my formal resignation from the Townsend Conservation Commission. Again, I thank everyone for the support and help that I received during my time as a commissioner. Sincerely, Jennifer Eaton. Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to thank Jennifer Eaton for her public service to the Conservation Commission during her time as chairman and member, and wish her luck in her future endeavors.
Anyone else?
Here, here. Thanks, Colby.
Yes, and thank Jennifer.
I agree.
Jennifer. You do.
4.4, volunteer response form to serve on the Conservation Commission submitted by Linda Mack. Linda, hi. Hi, Linda.
Hey there, guys.
Hey, Linda.
Hi.
Do you want to go through some of your background and experience, professionally and as a past member of the Conservation Commission?
Yeah, I think it's on. Do you have my volunteer response form?
Yep.
Okay. So that's there. And conservation has been something that I've been passionate about for a long time. I left the Conservation Commission about 16 years ago due to the fact that I took a job that was very full-time at the Community Foundation of North Central Mass. And so I've been working there for a long time, and that's been my focus. I haven't volunteered anywhere basically since I got that job. I recently left that job, and someone in town mentioned that there was an opening on conservation. So I thought, well, yeah, I'm kind of retired, and I have some knowledge. I have to get up to speed again because when you don't do something for 15 years, you forget some of these things. But I thought it would be a nice thing for me to be able to do. I was the executive director for the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions for a few years. I was the conservation agent I was actually the first conservation agent. It was when the state allowed conservation commissions to put aside money from their fees for staff and for different things. So we decided that we should have a conservation agent, and it was, I think it was 2 or 4 hours a week. It wasn't much. but I did that also. And so, yeah, I played, and I was on the planning board. I also, when I was on the Conservation Commission, I was very involved in getting a lot of people in town involved with conservation, endangered species. We had a bunch of subcommittees to get people involved so that we could move them up into Conservation Commission positions, because it's important that the town people get involved in these, appointed positions. It's a real honor, I think. And so I was able to get a lot of people involved and get them on the Conservation Commission and get them on these subcommittees and get everybody involved in really protecting, the bottom line is protecting our groundwater through all these different regulations that we have in place. So that's kind of where I was at 15 years ago, and now I'm kind of retired and happy to volunteer. I'm also looking for other people in town to volunteer, because I think it's important to have different voices on the Conservation Commission. It's also, I'd like to say that I take it very seriously when you're appointed to a commission in the town. You swear to uphold the laws, Wetlands Protection Act, Towns and Wetland Bylaw, and the regulations, that you uphold those. It's important to do that, even if you don't agree with them, or if you think they should be stricter, but you uphold those laws. And so I take that very seriously, to educate myself, to understand what the laws are. And also it's been impressive to see the staff that are here. Jessica, Matt, and Mike, you have a lot of knowledge at your fingertips. And so it makes it a lot easier for you guys to do your job. And I've been impressed watching Mike and Matt and Jessica and what they do already. It's they know what they're doing. So that's great. And I'll shut up now.
You want to have anything to add or questions to ask, or?
No, I don't.
So, Joan, do you have anything to add? I guess we need to make a motion to recommend.
We have we'll have Linda sit in for one more meeting, and then you guys can vote to recommend, since we have two meeting sit-ins, please.
Implemented that rule.
So can you explain what that is?
I guess recently the commission has been putting into place where volunteers will come and attend 2 meetings, just so they learn a little bit about the existing commission, and then the commission can learn about you. And then at the end of the second meeting is when they would vote to recommend your appointment to the commission to the Board of Selectmen, who has the ultimate appointing authority. So we would ask that you attend, ideally the next meeting, but if you're unable that date, then the one after, or so on and so forth.
Okay. So you're not necessarily eager to have someone on fairly soon.
This isn't a rule, right? We didn't vote for it to be a rule. I know what you're saying. We kind of just been doing it.
I think to be fair, that's kind of how it's been the last few members, but I mean, it's up to you guys.
I can say that when I was on the Conservation Commission, we kind of put that into place. It was 1 or 2 meetings, but it was for someone basically who doesn't understand conservation and needs to be educated. I'm happy to do that if that's what you guys want, but if you need somebody on the board, then don't feel, I'm pretty experienced in conservation. It's not like I'm someone new and I just am interested in the environment and protecting the environment. I'm pretty well versed in this. And I think that's an example of, you can put a policy into place, but policies are not hard and fast. It's up to you guys. I'll come
Joan?
to this one if you want. I'll come to
Thanks.
5 if you want, but I might get another job soon, so maybe I won't. Anyway. So yeah, do whatever you want, but I think it's important for Conservation Commissioners to be some flexibility too.
Well, I think we're lucky to have Linda with her experience. You were at the last meeting because I remember your face, I think, popping up there. And I think since she was executive director of MACC and the former agent and CONSCOM, it would be great to have a bigger board. If we ever had 7 on the board, it would be fabulous. So I'm all for her being able to be appointed for the next meeting.
So, yeah, we're all in agreement here too, Linda. You already served on the commission, you have extensive experience. I don't think that a second meeting is necessary to make the recommendation. Yeah, so.
She's a previous commissioner, so
Right.
she's already,
Previous agent.
she needs a refresher course.
And she's coming from a community foundation, which is it's an amazing organization that has done so much for Neshoba Valley, so in central Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess we just need a motion to keep moving this forward to recommend.
I make a motion, we recommend Linda Mack be appointed at the next, that we recommend Linda Mack to be appointed to CONSCOM and forward that to the BOS for the next meeting for appointment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Colby seconded. Colby, are you in favor?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes,
Joan?
Yes,
James, yes. So, thank you, Linda, for your response, for chiming in.
No, and Colby, I think you're my neighbor. Someone told
Yeah,
me.
I saw your address there. I noticed that. So. Yeah.
Now we'll know who each other is. That's good.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. So, education and conferences, it doesn't have anything listed, but Jessica, you forwarded us MACC classes coming up in June and July, a list of them.
Yes, I don't have that up in front of me, but I think it was 2 or 3 of the fundamentals, in case anyone needs those.
Yes, Joan.
can I talk to Colby? Colby, I put you in an email with Lindsay Martucci at MACC so you could forward her your address and all because I don't have it. So then I asked that she generate a membership invoice for you and I haven't seen that yet. Have you been able to get in contact with her?
No, I saw Jessica's emails about the MACC. Is this different?
Yeah, I sent you an email, you and Lindsay an email. I said, hi, you guys meet each other. Lindsay, let Colby give you the rest of his information because I don't have it. And then please generate a membership invoice because I'm the one that, then forwards those to the accountant. Let me dig that up and resend it tomorrow. How's that?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it here. I just searched for it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, please send it to me.
Sure.
They're floating around. Items for discussion at the next meeting. Jessica, we have that, oh my God, wetlands.
I know where you're going. The new NOI, that one?
The big one.
The big one. Yep. That would be our first hearing. We have an RDA that will be covered at the next meeting. Meeting minutes?
Okay, no, I just know there was the wildlife management area.
Yeah, and I guess just for public record, anyone listening or will watch this, we do on our website now have that NOI available for public viewing directly on the main Conservation Commission page. if anyone wants to review ahead of time and provide me with any comments in writing, that is, of course, welcome and appreciated.
All right. Yeah, if that's the first public hearing, are we going to need to think about using the Great Hall? Or do you think there's...
I'm not sure. I did actually reach out to the Shirley Conservation Agent today because they had their first hearing apparently yesterday. So I was going to try to get a feel for attendees and length of that so we can try to prepare accordingly.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. So we have 7.0. Next meeting is Wednesday, June 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. In the Board of Select Chambers, second floor. This meeting will also be held via virtual Zoom or in accordance with COVID-19 safe meeting guidelines. We need a motion to adjourn
Motion to adjourn.
at 9:08.
9:08. Motion to adjourn at 9:08.
And seconded. Colby, are you in favor?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes?
James, yes.